To achieve anything great in life, you've got to face opposition. People being hostile, people causing you trouble. These things make you stronger. You grow as a result.
Our guest today is Imam Ajmal Masroor. Going into politics, you have to sugarcoat things.
No,
No?
I don't have to sugarcoat things.
He is now on a mission to overthrow our current MP.
I've got a clear mission in life, inspire and influence change in life. Whether I become an MP or I don't become an MP, two white English guys decided to attack our car. I was cut, bleeding. The police came, they took the two boys outside and let them go. I felt so much pain in my heart.
You're taking part in something some consider to be against the law of Allah.
Europe, Britain and many other countries in the West, they're more Islamic than most Muslim countries. Vote to make a difference. Stand to influence the change. If you can't do any of that, for God's sake, keep your mouth shut.
However, ladies and gentlemen, supporters and well-wishers, if you are enjoying the contents on Side by Side podcast, please do consider subscribing to our channel on the platform you are tuned into. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Imam Ajmal Masroor. Thank you for making the time.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. You can call me Ajmal if you like.
Ajmal for MP, yeah?
Whatever you like.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, last encounter that we had was when we were doing the Channel 4 documentary, and alhamdulillah, you joined us then. And it's been a long time since then. Now, before we begin, we normally ask all our guests this question. What is your greatest fear?
Greatest fear in my life is drowning.
Drowning from what?
Drowning in a swimming pool. Or swimming, while swimming. Drowning in water. When I was very young, I drowned. And I survived. So I have that fear still. I've overcome it. I swim very well. I swim in the sea and I go often into the sea and swim as much as I can. But there is a fear. And that is one day I may just drown.
Wow. I mean, when I swim, I have that fear as well. So I have trouble breathing. Is that something that you have worked on? Is breathing a problem or what is it?
No, it's not. Yeah. So when you're swimming, if you have drowned, drowning is an experience that you never forget. It's when water is entering your nose and your mouth, and while you're trying to breathe, your lung is getting whole bursts of water at every breath or every intake, and overwhelming feeling that you can't breathe stays with you even afterwards. Especially when you are swimming, even if a droplet of water goes into your nose, you panic, and that panic could make you freeze, and if you freeze, you will drown. And so it's a vicious cycle, and you can work on it. So I had to find a way of overcoming my fear. Even now when I'm swimming, if inadvertently, when I'm not ready, you are never ready in the sea, water goes up my nose, I still panic, but I have to catch myself. I have to pull myself together, breathe. And I found a solution. I found a nose clip as a solution. So I initially would swim with a nose clip, and I overcame that fear very quickly. And so I use this nose clip analogy for life. And I say to people, all of us need a nose clip of some nature to overcome our own fears.
Wow, amazing. It's wonderful how you linked life and swimming together. So what would you consider more scary? Drowning and dying, or dying from fire?
I have never imagined dying from fire. I can imagine a person would die quicker while burning. I imagined that. I never thought dying from drowning would be quicker. But regardless of it, I think we all want our death to be quick, painless. And for a believer, the biggest consolation is the saying of Rasulullah ﷺ, which is that if you are dying, and if you've been a good person, and if you've been a decent human being, you've done everything ethically, lawfully, it is like you will find a small pinch as you are dying. Your soul will leave your body like a droplet of water would leave. So even if I was drowning or burning, if I had been a good person, I should not experience pain. So if you put it rationally, with the belief perspective, we shouldn't worry.
MashaAllah.
We shouldn't worry about
everything
death.
seems very positive, mashallah, with brother Ajmal Masroor. So where did you grow up, and what was your early years like?
Well, mixture of many places. So I was born in Bangladesh, came here very young. My parents were here in this country. My father came to the UK in 1956. My mother came in 64. And when she was expecting in 1970, towards the end of 1970 or beginning of 71, she decided to go to Bangladesh for a short holiday. It was the wrong time to go because war broke out between Bangladesh and Pakistan. So they got stuck and I was born over there. So my parents came back as soon as war was over and they could physically travel. And then I grew up in Shadwell. Lived in a house, in a council flat, 46 Solanda Gardens for 14 years. In between that, I had also traveled back to Bangladesh to study Islam and many other disciplines that I had the opportunity to study. And then I came back to the UK, and ever since then I've been here, settled, studied in East London, worked in East London, grew up in East London, all around Shadwell, Whitechapel, Stepney Green, these areas.
MashaAllah, from the ends, yeah? So what did you study?
Well, usual. I studied Sharia, Islamic law, Islamic studies first. And then I came back to this country. My father's dream was to send me to Medina University. And at the age of 14, my father brought me here because they were taking fresh applicants. Unfortunately, for Medina, I was not good enough. I think I was too much of a rebel for them. Anyway, after that, I studied the usual studies as you do in this country, GCSEs, A-levels, BA, studied Arabic and politics, and then did masters, then did further studies in counseling, mediation. That's it really, not much.
And what did you study in Bangladesh? Was it Alimiya?
Alimiya program, yes.
And what city was that in?
In Sylhet.
Sylhet. Which madrasa or institute?
Jamia was called at that time.
Okay.
But when we started, that was a fusion syllabus. It had a combination of Islamic Alimiya syllabus as well as secular syllabus. And the government didn't like it. So they shut it down. And they forced it to become a school and a madrasa and become two separate institutes. And for when I was there, it was one. And that's why I am who I am. I'm able to navigate both secular world and religious world very confidently and comfortably.
When did you know you were a good speaker?
When I was young. I don't think I knew I was a good speaker when I was young. My father took me and my sister to a singing class, Islamic nasheed class. Young kids. We were singing all sorts of good songs. And the teacher said to my sister, "Why don't you sing?" So she sang a couple of notes. And he told me, "Why don't you sing?" And I did. So he said to my sister, "Why don't you join the class?" And he told me I should go and learn how to do talks and lectures. And I got that registered in my head from the age of about 7 or 8 that I am destined to speak because I'm not destined to sing.
Was that how bad it was?
In that disappointment. But I think it turned out good because then I invested in my personal, not the strength, but interest in speaking. So I gave my first ever speech at my school, an Islamic school, at the age of 10. And I won the competition and I spoke. Then I haven't stopped speaking ever since. And I don't know whether I'm a good speaker or not, but I speak, alhamdulillah.
So was there a school or somewhere where you went to practice more speaking? Like we have Toastmasters or Dale Carnegie Institute or something for speaking. I mean, was there something that you took on or it's just practice?
Speaking has been a natural Allah-given gift to me. I have never been to a speaking class or a speaking program or nothing. I have not even done a media training program to be able to present or argue my case. I think it's inherent and it's come as a result of most important one, gift from God, and secondly, practice.
MashaAllah, and you've nurtured it quite well.
I don't know about that. I'm still learning.
I mean, no. You sound very good, MashaAllah, and we'll get into that in a bit. So, what were some of your major influences during your childhood that shaped who you are today?
Okay. Well, in life, my biggest influence was my father. When I was young, I looked up to him as a towering figure with depth of knowledge, a man who was far ahead of his time. And he was visionary for his age group. And he certainly broke all the molds. And when people were busy farming and working, he told his family that he didn't want to do any of that. So he left his family home at the age of 7 and lived in people's houses in lodging in Bangladesh, worked as a shepherd or a day laborer to be able to earn a little bit of money so that he could study. And eventually found lodging in the head teacher of an Islamic school or madrasa. And he stayed in the head teacher's house, and he worked in his house as well as studied in his madrasa. So I found that to be a great way to break away from the cultural mold. And he was able to uplift his family from poverty by bringing education back to the fore. Then he came to the UK and also definitely did everything possible within his power. So he was my biggest influence. And then my head teacher in my school, where I went, he was, again, a towering figure, literally a very tall, slim gentleman with an amazing demeanor. Mannerism was impeccable. He spoke extremely well. He treated each and every student in the school with dignity and honor, never rebuked a single person. And in our Islamic school, corporal punishment was prohibited. Not a single teacher was allowed to hit a child.
Well, in Bangladesh?
In Bangladesh.
Wow.
We were not allowed. And he said, if you can't teach a child using love, you certainly can't teach them with a stick. And he banned them. So he was a great influence. I looked at him as a great role model. And then I got into the habit of reading, extensive amount of reading from very young age. And I've read extensively books of all nature. And I can't tell you one single author who has influenced me. So I've been influenced by the concept of reading, if that's an influence, of course. And then I had a great love for the Quran and reflective reading of the Quran. There was a time when I was not well in the early days of my life. I was hospital bound for about 9 weeks. I couldn't even get out of my bed. I was basically unable to walk.
What age was that?
Oh, probably 19.
19.
And during those 9 weeks, I probably read 3-4 library worth of books. Wow. I would finish a book, 2-3 books a day. And
wow.
Those who were looking after me got fed up. They just kept on bringing books. They would bring 3 books, would be done next day. One brother would bring a car full of books and would be read in 3-4 days, and he would take them back. But I'm just saying how reading inspired me to become who I am. Somebody asked me, what's the secret of becoming a good speaker? I always say reading. Vocabulary for you would only, you would only be able to gain sufficient in your head if you have read other people's writings. And if you read and read and read, you will remember them when you need them. So reading has been my other influence. And finally, a very strong sense of justice and injustice has driven me to become who I am. I've stood up for just causes around the world from a very young age. So those are the 4 primary influences, not just people.
Obviously, you've been in community service for a while. You have been standing, as MP elects, for a number of times. What sparked your interest to get involved with public service and with the community?
When I was 16 years, when I was very young, actually, in the East End of London, I suffered extreme racism. There is a particular incident when it was my 5th or 6th birthday, I can't remember. Obviously, as you can imagine, we didn't celebrate birthdays, but I remember still distinctly. And I've been asking my father to buy me a bike, and he decided to buy me a bike. So he took me out of his house into his car, and he was taking me to a bike shop. But we couldn't even get inside the car when 2 white English guys decided to attack our car with bricks, broke the windscreen, all the glass shattered. But those days, the glass didn't shatter into small pieces. They broke in big pieces. So they fell on my face, my body. I was cut, bleeding, and I was screaming. I was a little boy. My father picked me up and took me inside. And him and his brother went and captured those 2 boys who had hit me in the car. They brought them home. Police were called. The entire neighborhood descended in front of our house, trying to break down our main door. 46 Salanda Gardens where it happened. Police came. They took the 2 boys outside and let them go, and told us that there is nothing that they can do. And they still saw me bleeding. And that I remember very distinctly, because I felt so much pain in my heart. I felt let down by the police. The very police service that is supposed to protect us were accomplices to racism and racial attacks. So I made up my mind that when I grow up, I will do everything possible to fight racism. So I took up my first job as a youth worker to organize young people. I became a community organizer with the citizens in this area, as you can probably know. I did all sorts of work, and all of these work were related to public service. It's about bringing the communities together. It was about empowering the communities to feel good about themselves and finding a solution to the problems rather than screaming and shouting about it. When we were younger and we were experiencing racism, many of my friends took the wrong turning. A few of us survived. I survived, of course, and you would know the other person, Aklu.
Oh, you know Akli as well?
We grew up in the same neighborhood.
No way.
Yeah. We shared our bikes. Our parents were best of friends. They lived on the 5th floor. I lived on the ground floor. You know, we hanged around all our lives. So Aklu and a few others, we have survived, even though we faced acute racism. But there are others who didn't. I remember I went to a prison for delivering a lecture to Muslim prisoners. And in the prison audience, there was a young boy. And I recognized him. Young means my age group. I looked at him and he kept on looking away. I looked at him, he kept on looking away. And then after the program was over, I went up to him and I said, "Do I recognize you?" He goes, "Yes, you do." And he gave me his name. I said, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "Do you remember when we were younger, we were facing racism?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Remember that guy who used to bully us?" I said, "I remember everything." He goes, "Well, my friend, you did the right thing with your life. I did the wrong thing. I got involved with the wrong crowd. Anger inside me took the better of me, unfortunately. And I'm in prison. And now you are outside free and lecturing us." It was a very difficult time to grow up. Anyone who took the wrong turning ended up being totally messed up. And at our time when we were growing up, we didn't have mentors. We didn't have any institutions. We didn't have what we have today. East London Mosque was a porter cabin on Fieldgate Street. There were no other mosques in the area. There were no Darul Ummah, there were no Isha'atul Islam, there were nothing. Just one mosque called East London Mosque, and it was a porter cabin. We didn't have many Muslim scholars or visible Muslims in the area. We were the only two Bengali families in the whole of Shadwell, myself and Aklu's family. So it's not that simple, but it's the desire to make a difference that brought me to public services. And I've remained in public services ever since, and I still do. And I'm a great believer that if you serve humanity, Allah will look after you. And as Gandhi once said, happiness lies in the service of people. So my happiness actually is in what I do. And every night I go to sleep with no regret and a huge amount of happiness in my heart.
Serving people come with its own challenges. The very people that you want to serve often also oppose you. They
and
make it
backstab
difficult
you.
for you.
And
Yeah.
backstab you.
Yeah, so why is it? I mean, did you face any challenges, and what were they?
I have faced challenges of all nature. So from being a youth worker, young kids becoming a problem. I remember in one youth working session, I was there, I had two other colleagues. A young boy came with a baseball bat and he started breaking all the windows of the youth club. He was very angry. One of our common friends, Omar Farouk, he is now a candidate for Bow and Stratford. He was a youth worker with me. I was in charge. And he went to stop this boy from breaking the windows. And this boy punched him on Omar Farouk's face and knocked Omar Farouk out instantly. So from facing physical attack, verbal abuse from the very people that you're trying to help, these young people, to later on when I stood for the parliamentary elections twice at least before, in 2010, people not wanting you to stand, doing everything possible to make your life a living hell. Or when I go onto the media and put my head above the parapet and defend the Islamic cause, the Muslim situations, I answer, I speak, I debate, etc. I still get abuse from the Muslim community. I get abuse from the non-Muslim communities, those who don't like what I say. And look, I'm not an exception. It is the very nature of the work that we have chosen to do. Who am I? Prophets got insulted, rebuked, thrown out of their homes. Great people of the world, Nelson Mandela served 26 years in prison, innocent life. Innocent, all his life was wasted in prison. So for anyone to achieve anything great in life, you've got to face opposition. Opposition and people being hostile, people causing you trouble. Actually, these things make you stronger and you grow as a result. And if you don't find opposition, you will never find strength. And it's through opposition you polish your character, you develop your resilience, and you know how to tackle challenges. So I have no problem with that. Even now, as I'm campaigning for the parliamentary seat in Bethnal Green and Stepney, I'm facing opposition from left, right, and centre. It's okay. I've seen Twitter feeds, people calling me names. I've seen Facebook feeds, people calling me all sorts of insulting words and names. It really doesn't bother me.
Does it anger you at all?
It doesn't, because I feel Allah has honored me more than any human being can honor me. And I've faced it for the last 30 years. Somebody said to me, how do you manage? How do you go to sleep with so many people talking against you? And I say, if they're backbiting me, they're adding hasanat to my records. And if they are slandering me, then they're only causing themselves damage and my honor is being increased. So I don't worry about what people say. I've got a clear mission in life. My mission is to inform, inspire, and influence change in life and in people. So that's what I do, and that's what I will inshallah do. Whether I become an MP or I don't become an MP, I will. I've done it for the last 30 years.
Very, very, very powerful, very moving, mashallah. I'm getting inspired myself because obviously growing, as you say, comes with its own challenges. And, you often think, people are going to love me, people are going to support me. But, to be honest, to be fair, there are a lot of supporters. People do love you. And I know that there are people that love you. And I also know there are people who don't love you. And obviously, you're not a people pleaser. From what I understood, you have to you say what you have to say, and it may rub some people up the wrong way, and then often it's good messages.
I hope and I pray that people who don't like me, they don't. Oh, look, the reality is most people who say they don't like me, they've never actually interacted with me personally. So you're right, they don't like me for what I have said, because my claim to fame is what I say. Television, radio, what I write, people get to hear about it. If I kept my mouth shut and said nothing, those people won't know me, and therefore they will not hate me. So because they've not interacted with me directly or one-to-one, they've not got to know me, maybe they just don't like what I have said. It's okay. You don't have to like what I say. And you're 100% right. If there is one person who doesn't like me, I believe there are 20 others who do. And those who do like you, they don't have to come and tell you that they like you. And the one or two that don't like me, they don't keep me awake. They've never, ever been able to keep me awake. Allah is the one who gives me honor, remember? And Allah is the one who takes my honor away. Allah is the one who will give me power. And Allah is the one who will disempower me. I'm not a people pleaser. I will never be a people pleaser. I will speak the truth, and I will have, as long as Allah wills. My mission in life is, like I said, to speak the truth. And if the truth hurts, I'm sorry, but I'll tell the truth.
But going into politics, you have to sugarcoat things, don't you?
No.
No?
I don't have to sugarcoat things. If you're part of a political party, yes, you have to. You have to abide by party politics, party principles, your party leader's mood, like we have seen in the Labour Party. Keir Starmer says this, everyone has to follow. If you don't, you're deselected instantly with no notice. Or in the Conservative Party or the Lib Dems, etc. Whereas I've been part of the Lib Dems. One of the reasons I left is because I don't believe they're driven by their conscience. I believe they're driven by what their whims and desires says in a collective way. Well, that's their choice, it's not mine. Morally, there are some serious issues. So I've chosen to be independent because I've always been independent. Even when I was in Lib Dems, I was always independent. And I will remain independent, inshallah. So the basic bottom line is, speak the truth and don't worry about it.
Now, there are people out there who would discard democracy, politics, just write it off completely. And you as an imam, why are you taking part in something some consider to be, against the law of Allah?
Look, it's easy rhetoric. These are easy rhetorics. I call it sloganeering, right? You can make slogans if you like. Slogans don't achieve anything. We live in a country called the UK. UK political system is democratic. If you choose to live here, you need to make some decisions, some choices. Number one, is this your country? If you don't believe this is your country, then leave. Number two, do you believe the people of this country are your people? If you believe they're not your people, then leave. And if you believe this is your country and people of this country are your people, then do everything in your capacity for the well-being of the country and the people. That is the most Islamic thing you can do, because you have drawn up a contract between the people and the country in which you live. And that contract, Allah says again and again in the Quran, do not break your contract. Do not break your contract. So if you have made that contract with people with this country, please abide by it. Now name me a problem in this country that we as people have that you and I feel is so contradictory to Islam that we can't live here. Let me ask you a question. When people are looking for asylum, where do they go?
This country.
They come to the UK. Do they go to Saudi Arabia?
No.
Have you heard anyone going to UAE for asylum?
No.
Any Muslim countries for asylum? Very rarely. Most people from Muslim countries and developing world, poorer parts of the world, they rush to Europe. Why do they rush to Europe? Because in Europe, there are systems in place, whether you like it or not, that will serve your human rights, protect it. They will enable you to find justice, and they will give you opportunities to grow. These are Islamic principles. So I say to you and to everybody who's listening, Europe, Britain, and many other countries in the West, they are more Islamic than most Muslim countries. So if you're living in a country where there are morals, there are values that are Islamic by far, what are you complaining about? Well, they run according to democracy. Well, democracy is a tool. Don't throw the baby with the bathwater. It's a tool. You can influence the tool. The basic premise of our country, rule of law, basic premise of our country, human rights, basic premise of our country, that you have the right to choose your government. Are they contradictory to Islam? No. If somebody says these are not Islamic, what are they proposing? Dictatorial regimes? No rules? Rule of jungle? What are they proposing? So democracy provides a framework within which you can work. And if I'm living in the democracy like the UK and it's my country and people of this country are my people and I have to do everything possible to make this country good, how can I do that from the periphery without being involved? Vote to make a difference. Stand to influence the change. If you can't vote, if you can't do any of that, for God's sake, keep your mouth shut. Because if you can't speak the truth, Rasulullah said, keep your mouth zipped. That's the saying of the Prophet. And some people may not like what I'm saying. And again, I don't mince my words. I believe I have a duty and a responsibility to influence change in the UK with Islamic principles of justice, of fairness, of equality, of compassion, of charity, of goodness, of virtue. I think this is fantastic. I'm having all those. Should I be selfish and not share it with the other people in this country? I must share them with everybody else. Look at the social problem in this country. Alcohol, drugs misuse, blah, blah, blah. We have solutions to those problems. What are the solutions? Based on Islam. Stay away from drinking alcohol. Don't take intoxicants because it will alter your mind. These are scientifically proven formulas now, but we knew them for the last 1400 years. So I'm very proud to be a Muslim, but I'm also very comfortable being British. And if there is something wrong in Britain, I'll stand up to make a change. And that's why I'm standing again.
Wow. Now, alcoholism and, drugs and, any substance abuse, I mean, they have made it part of their life, haven't they? So
it's become part of a culture.
Yeah.
It was no different to Mecca when the Prophet came. Meccan people, even in Medina, they were drinking. Alcohol was part of their society. And we know what Aisha, Prophet's wife, said. She said, when eventually prohibition for alcohol came down, it came down in 3 stages. And on the final stage, when it came down, the streets of Medina was flooded. People have no problems in giving them up. Even Allah made prohibition on alcohol gradually over 3 stages. And it took almost 23 years or 20 years to make that prohibition.
So how are you going to go about in terms of bringing some changes towards convincing people, don't drink?
Well, don't you see already? There are movements across this country that are promoting don't take intoxicants, drugs not good for you, don't smoke, it'll kill you, alcohol is this not good for you, you're not even allowed to take a drop of alcohol before driving. I see a gradual shift in the right direction, even in the UK, that sober lifestyle would be preferred by people. Who makes most money are the multinationals from alcohol, intoxicants. Who are the biggest losers are the consumers. The consumers need to take their destiny in their own hand, and they need to say to the manufacturers, the production companies, the multinationals, get lost. We're not buying your soul-destroying, society-corrupting, immoral, all of these. We're not buying them.
But how are you going to say get lost to these people who own the governments effectively?
Well, we're going to have to become part of a process where we can say, we're not going to be owned. You can't buy me. If I become an elected parliamentarian in the next election, I don't belong to a party. Nobody can buy me. I'm not available on sale. If we get 100, 200, 300 such individuals driven by their conscience, their desire to serve their country, and not bought by multinationals, there you are. You have a government, and a different government.
Do you think they will start changing the systems of democracy if they see there's an uprise of independence?
No, why would they? Democracy is embedded in the Western culture. Even if they do, democracy is not a divine order. You may find in 100 years a different system which is better than democracy. What we now know is democracy, and it's one of the worst but working well model that we have. It's not perfect model. So in our country, in the UK, if the people of this country want to change, then we will have to have a change. And if they don't want to change, there will be no change. So democracy enables that. It empowers people to bring about that change. And here is a chance, once in a lifetime, for us to bring about a change by getting the right people in the parliament.
Now, you're standing as an independent candidate for Bethnal Green and Stepney.
Correct.
How did that happen? I mean, as far as I was concerned, that photo was supposed to be Tas Akunjee's. What happened?
Well, maybe you supported him from some of your tweets I've read from before. But the reality is, look, there were two independent candidates. We all had the same goal. Our goal was to get rid of Rushanara. Get rid of Rushanara was our aim. Why? Because she was genocide supporting, or she was supporting Keir Starmer's genocidal policies. She did not do enough to oppose it. We decided, actually, both of us standing means Rushanara will win. One of us will have to sit down. We discussed, we negotiated. And because we were both on the same page, he decided that I have a better chance of winning the seat. I will be able to unite bigger and a greater stakeholder groups from amongst our communities. I'll be able to bring young and old together. He had a particular constituency of people who were supporting him, but that did not include everybody. So when we did the cost-benefit analysis, we both learned that I had greater chance of uniting the community. And his last message was, yesterday's message was, please unite behind Ajmal. I am supporting him. We want to win. We want to make it very clear when they get rid of Rushanara. Let us get rid of Rushanara united. And that's why he stood down and I'm standing.
Hey guys, I hope you have been enjoying today's episode of Side by Side with myself as your host, Kazi Shafiqur Rahman, and our guest, Ajmal Masroor, who is running as an independent candidate for MP for Bethnal Green and Stepney in an attempt to overthrow our current MP, Rushanara Ali. The question is, has he got enough time until 4th of July to gain the support that he needs? If you have been enjoying our episode, please do consider subscribing to our channel on the platform you are tuned into, as it is your subscription that motivates us to keep edging forward episode by episode. Now let's get straight back into the show. When did this conversation start?
A while back. But it was done in private, in confidence. And we had trust and faith in each other. And we had trust and faith in our process and our advisors. And eventually we agreed. And that agreement was probably the most monumental agreement of our generation you'll ever have seen. How many times have you ever heard two politicians making such a pact?
But don't you think if you didn't stand, he would have had a chance to win? And if you supported him from the background, don't you think he would have won?
Could have if the election was in November, but the election is in July. He simply doesn't have enough time to garner support from the community organizations. I do. I have already got their support even before I started. So if November election was, as we predicted, maybe he would have been able to register a larger number of younger people's votes, for sure. Maybe he would have been able to build that relationship. Remember, Tower Hamlets is a very unique and a very peculiar borough with so many complexities and layers, hierarchies. The way things are done is not as straightforward as everywhere else, and you can't bypass them. And you need to go through the stakeholders, community groups, organizations, doorkeepers, many layers. I know this place like the back of my hand. Tas Akunjee didn't have enough time. Within this 4 weeks, this was impossible. Whereas he felt that convincing young people to vote for me was far easier than turning the mountain off the other side. It would not be possible. So he was clear that our goal, I was very clear, our goal is to get Rushanara out. Let's get Rushanara out. That should be the mantra. And it is the mantra, by the way. Let's get Rushanara out.
I don't want to say anything about the current MP. But
you can, don't be afraid. Out of the 7 opportunities that she has had to vote against government's policy and call for a ceasefire, she abstained, she tried to scupper one, and she did not even record or register any vote for the remaining.
Do you think she can, win that trust again within the
people
time?
have... Well, look, there are people who are blind supporters of Rushanara. I understand that. They do, because that's Labour Party for you. But we are asking even them, do you not care about the 40,000 Palestinians who've been killed? This election, for me, for Bethnal Green and Stepney, is a referendum on Palestine. Are we on the right side of humanity, of history? Do we oppose genocide or do we support genocide? If you vote for Rushanara Ali, I'm afraid your vote is for genocide. If you oppose Rushanara Ali and if you oppose genocide, then you have no other choice but to vote for an independent candidate. Like myself, there is only one who would be robust enough, loud enough, proud enough and strong enough, hopefully, in the parliament and in front of the media to say this is a genocide. I wouldn't care about what my party leader says.
I mean, your former party, Lib Dem, Rabina Khan, she's standing as a Lib Dem, right?
Why do you think I left Lib Dems?
I don't know, but she's been on the right side of history with supporting Palestine.
Well, she may be, but her party isn't willing to call it a genocide. Ask her, is she willing to call this whole saga, awful atrocities that we have witnessed against the Palestinians a genocide? If you are part of a party, I have learned, and take it from me, I'm not that quick in giving judgments. After having gone through political systems and being part of a political party, I've come to the conclusion that for a practicing conscientious Muslim who is driven by their conscience and driven by their desire to see global justice in the world, it is impossible to remain in a political organization such as a political party. Whether it is the Tories, the Conservatives, whether it is the Labour or the Lib Dems, it doesn't matter. You'll be bound by the party policies. You'll be bound by the party leadership and whip. If Rushanara says of course, she says one thing against Keir Starmer, just like many other candidates, at the last minute, they would be stripped of their seat. Like we saw in Epping the other day. You will have the same with Rabina in Lib Dems. Just say one thing that does not agree, that does not go with the party leadership. Rabina will be out. So it's better for Muslims, it's better for people of conscience to be independent. So I'd invite Rabina to stand down and join our campaign and support the independent movement that is growing up and down the country. Why do you think Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak agreed to an early election? Simply because by calling an early election, they will catch all the independent MP candidates by surprise, because none of us were ready. Yeah. We were waiting for November. All the political parties are ready. And it was a premeditated, orchestrated plan to stop. So the conversation was like this, probably. Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak must have met, or their advisors must have met. And they said, okay, let's do an analysis. If we have a November election, what's going to be the likely case? If we have an early election, what's going to be the likely case? And the scenario is like this. Keir Starmer must have said to Rishi Sunak, mate, whatever happens, you're going to lose, whether you have an election tomorrow or in November. If you have an election in November, there is a likelihood of having 100 pro-Palestinian and or independent MPs in the parliament. There is a likelihood of that. Would you prefer that? As opposed to now, when you're going to lose anyway, when you will have very few independent MPs. Rishi Sunak must have thought, that makes sense. I don't want pro-Palestinian MPs in the parliament. I don't want independent people in the parliament. I want parties to win. Okay, I'm going to cut my loss. Okay, Keir Starmer, I know you're going to win. Let's go for an early election. We're going to prevent the independent from becoming a dominant force in the parliament. Remember, it was orchestrated, premeditated, and is planned. And it is your and mine and your listeners' moral duty. It is our the moral question of our time, and that is we must stand on the right side of history. Vote for independent MPs or independent candidates, and vote for any MP that was vocal and clear in supporting a ceasefire for the Palestinians and demanding an end to the brutal attack on them, demanding a sanction against Israel, demanding boycott against Israel, demanding an end to arms sales against Israel, demanding that our government must work with International Court of Justice and International Crimes Court to uphold their verdict on Benjamin Netanyahu and his associates as guilty of genocide and war crime and should be arrested, and they should not be offered any diplomatic immunity. You must ask those questions to any candidate, and if they say anything different to we stand with the Palestinians, don't vote for them. So I'm saying do not vote for any traditional party in the next election unless the candidate is absolutely robust and the candidate has a track record of speaking out the truth, regardless of what the party leadership says. And there are very few of them. Otherwise, vote for independent.
Can you name me one that's a robust candidate in any of the parties?
There are. We have seen a number of MPs who have gone through hell and back, who have criticized, even the Conservative Party has MPs like that. We have had Labour MPs who have been like that. But they're slowly but surely being removed by the draconian, the authoritarian likes of Keir Starmer. Rishi Sunak is a nobody because he was never an elected Prime Minister. Nobody voted for him to be the Prime Minister. He was voted as an MP. He became an accidental. Actually, he was the reject of the last lot. And he was put in the place just to keep the seat warm until the next election. Don't worry about it. In the next election, Keir Starmer most likely will be the Prime Minister because Labour Party is on the run to win. That's what the prediction is. But we don't want Keir Starmer to have it easy. Give him a bloody nose by voting for as many independent MPs as possible.
So assume you did win the election and you did become an MP. Don't you think they're going to make your life living hell afterwards? I mean, this whole Palestine situation is not just, to me, it seems is so deeply rooted within the system. Politics is just one aspect, but I think it's far beyond
What
politics.
do you think? What do you think
Look at Mayor Lutfur Rahman, for example. I mean...
Well, look, he's a locally elected mayor. He's a democratic mandate. Nobody has the right to question that. Anyone who questions the legitimacy of Lutfur, they need to really sit down and think. Are they disregarding the rights of the votes of those who voted for Lutfur? What if I use the same analogy? Donald Trump, a convicted criminal waiting to be charged, was a president before, and while he was in office, he was actively behaving badly. Before he became the president, he was actively behaving badly. Now that he is no longer a president, he has been found guilty, hasn't been sentenced yet, and he still wants to be the president. By the same logic, should I declare war against America because they've got a criminal president? I can't. Even if the American people, even if they elect a criminal as their president, democracy demands us to respect it. Same democracy demands everybody to respect the wishes of people of Tower Hamlets. They've voted for Lutfur. He's their mayor. Move on. Move on as far as I'm concerned. If I become an MP, and if anybody makes my life a living hell, I'd say to them, that's a badge of honor. Do you know why? 40,000 Palestinians have been killed. More than 15,000 have been children. Another 15,000 of them would be women. For the life and the blood and the sacrifice of those innocent women and children, my life becoming a living hell is worth it. At least I'm alive. They're no longer alive. They've been killed. 100,000 have been injured, maimed. 80% to 90% of Gaza has been flattened. If they make my life a living hell because I stood for the rights of the Palestinians, that would be a badge of honor with which I should struggle even more. And finally, I will fight for Palestinians and their rights to exist, because I think that is a basic human right that we all enjoy. Why should we deny them that right? I will fight against any oppression in any part of the world, any apartheid in any part of the world, all forms of racism, bigotry, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism. I'll fight against them all. And if my life becomes a living hell, let it be. Until I die, I shall carry on.
So what are you going to say to, I guess, certain groups of people? For example, we have a business. We have been invited to take part in Pride Month. Obviously, we don't believe in it. We don't want to take part in it. But we have to find a way to reject certain ideologies. And so how are you going to navigate this whole, fog or cloud or this movement?
I was invited to 10 Downing Street many, many years ago. And I was told it's an iftar event in the month of Ramadan. And Tony Blair was the Prime Minister at that time. And Tony Blair is not going to be attending. I reluctantly went. When I arrived, I saw Tony Blair. I was livid. I was very angry. I said to the people, why did you invite me to a meeting with this war criminal? They said, well, he's here. He's going to speak. So as he was speaking, I started walking in his direction to ask him a question. Some Muslim cronies prevented me from reaching near to the stage. They said, you can't go there. I said, why not? You can't. I said, I want to ask him a question. You can't. Okay. So I came back. I stood next to the door. As Tony Blair, after finishing his talk, I saw Muslim leaders bending over backwards to take pictures with him, shake his hands. I was disgusted. As he's leaving, he has to leave through the same door as where I was standing. And in front of me, there was a table. And on the table, there was a guest book. Somebody screamed, Mr. Blair, please sign our guest book. So he came right in front of me, like you and me. Imagine you're Tony Blair for a second and I'm here. You come and say, guest book. He's got the guest book. He's got the pen. He sees me. He puts his hand out to shake mine. And I said to Mr. Blair, I don't shake hands with people whose hands are full of blood. You're a war criminal. Your policies have killed thousands of people in Iraq and displaced millions. I'm not going to shake your hand. And if you think a few samosas and an opportunity to take photos with you is going to win my heart, you're mistaken, Mr. Blair. I had my voice very loud. Everybody could hear it, 300-400 people. I was told, Mr. Masroor, you will be banned from all government offices for the next 5 years. And I was. And it's a badge of honor.
What, just for saying that?
Just for challenging a person who has taken our country to a...
And he's not even the prime... Was he the Prime Minister?
He was the Prime Minister.
Okay, he was.
An illegal war. So, my friend, I have no problem in standing for my principles. If I believe in a principle, I'll make my principle very clear. If I believe in a moral principle, I'll be clear in my moral principle. But I will not impose it on anybody. We live in a democracy. You can be what you want. It's not a problem for me. But I don't have to be what you want me to be. I can be who I want to be. I have that right. There may be irreconcilable difference between you and me. Irreconcilable difference is okay. There are irreconcilable differences between Islam and secular lifestyle. Alcohol is one of them. I will never drink. I will never gamble. I'll never endorse gambling or alcohol. You can't force me to do it. So there are some moral irreconcilable differences. I say to people, don't fight over them. It's a pluralist democracy. Let everyone be. I want to be myself.
What is your strategy to beat the current MP?
I don't have a strategy that's a magic. I don't have a magic formula. That's my basic bottom line. I've been chosen by a process called Community Coalition that came together, openly selected a candidate, declared a candidate.
Who are they? I mean, who's behind this
30
coalition?
different organizations,
Okay.
or 29 different organizations. You have to speak to Community Coalition. They will give you a list of them. We can't dismiss them, by the way, because communities came together. That's the only show in town. Nobody else came together. Were there any other ones? No, that's the only one. They asked for applicants. I put my application in and I was selected. So my strategy is to ask everybody, regardless of our differences, regardless of whether you support it or you don't support it. It doesn't matter. Regardless of whether you supported Akunjee or you didn't support Akunjee, it doesn't matter. Now there is only one candidate. There will only be one candidate. independent candidate, I mean.
Yes.
If you want to see an end of years and years of abuse that our communities have faced from traditional political parties, this is your chance. I'm standing to defeat Rushanara. So I'm looking for people's votes. I'm asking people to forget about our differences. I'm asking people to unite behind one simple slogan, and that is, let's get Rushanara out. A vote for Rushanara is vote for genocide. Remember this. Do not vote for genocide.
Now, aside, obviously, Palestine is definitely the primary subject, the primary topic, and it is a very good mission to have as a prime mission.
It's a litmus test, my friend.
Yes.
Look, litmus test in the sense that if we fail in upholding rule of law, international law, human rights of Palestinians today, what's next? We must win this one. And a win for an independent is win for human rights, rule of law, and the rights of people of the world. And therefore, there is no ambiguity about it. You vote for one of those traditional parties, you're voting for end of your human rights, end of rule of law, end of what we consider to be normal. The abnormal is going to be winning. You don't want that. You want the normality to win. Freedom, rule of law, international law to win. Vote independent.
What else can we expect as a constituent?
You will find me regularly available to do your work. I'll speak openly and honestly in the parliament, outside the parliament. I'll represent you authentically. I'll be a hardworking MP. I'm not interested in career out of it. Some people think it's for money. I have made more money than parliament would offer me. I've been offered millions of pounds in my life, and I've said no to them. Because money doesn't excite me. Money doesn't interest me. Money is just a tool. People who know me, they will tell you, if I wanted to be a multimillionaire by now, I could have been one of the richest at that time, young Muslims in this country when I had the opportunities. I said no. What motivates me, what drives me, is service to the people. Even now, I drive a Nissan Note from 2008. You don't think I can afford a car that is brand new? Of course I can. But what's the car going to do to me? It doesn't give me any honor. It was going to give me a bit of a boost to my ego. So my motivation isn't career. My motivation isn't to become famous. I think I'm pretty known in my community. My motivation isn't my ego. It's none of those. My motivation is to serve my community. But this election, my motivation is to stand for people of Palestine. Not only for people of Palestine, but people of the world who believe in rule of law.
What are the main issues in Bethnal Green and Stepney?
A lot of issues. I can name a lot, but let me give you three. So this moral issue, Palestine, is the big one. Everyone is talking about it. Second, education. Most of our schools are becoming academies. You would remember recently, a school banned prayers. When there is an academy, the academy is being managed by central government. So Department of Education is directly responsible for your academy. Local authority isn't. Who do you go to when Department of Education needs to be questioned, or you need to represent your case to Department of Education? Not your local councillor. You go to the MP. I will do that for you. You need an MP who understands what it means to pray. You need an MP who will have affinity with prayer to defend your right to pray. Now, please tell me if that's possible with the current MP. You don't have to answer it. Secondly, there are other issues, housing issues, immigration issues, crime, and so on and so forth. I can give you a long list of them. But an MP can't do much except represent your interest and lobby on your behalf. Represent your interest and lobby on your behalf. And I will do that.
Housing issues. I mean, what are you going to do towards housing issues? Because obviously it is overcrowded.
But a local MP can't do anything about housing. It's not local MP's responsibility to build more housing. It's the local authority's responsibility. Of course, local authority leans on the central government for funding and so on. So as an MP, I can lobby on behalf of the local authority if I'm elected to the housing department within the government or government department that is responsible for it to say, can we have more funding? Can we have better case, please? Can we look at this and that and the other? I can present a case. So remember, for everything, a local MP is simply a champion for local issues in the parliament. And that's what I will do. There is nothing more I can do. I can't promise you a home. I can't promise you a church or a mosque. I can't promise you salary rise. Nothing. I can only represent your truth in the parliament and be fair in speaking the truth. What we lack today is an authentic, fair-minded, consciously driven MP in the parliament, and that's the reason why I'm standing.
Would you ever want to become a minister?
Why would I want to become a minister? I'm an independent person. Look, you should not close the door of serving your country. If anybody offers you an opportunity and you see that opportunity is going to bring greater good to your community, even by my faith definition, you assess benefit and harm, and then you make a decision. If I am able to serve my community as a minister, and I think I'm going to be able to provide greater good, and my mouth is not going to be muzzled by a party, why would I say no to it? My job is to represent, inform, remember, influence, and inspire change. And if that's the position I get, I will definitely and diligently do them. But never will I compromise my commitment, and that is I am accountable to the people who vote me in, who elect me. If they don't want me to do something, and that's the overwhelming voice of my constituency, why would I do it? They'll unelect me in the next election, sure. But I don't want to do that. I will work with the people. But the question that you've asked, if an opportunity comes and I can benefit the community, why not?
If Labour wins, what does this mean? What does it tell you about our community?
Well, our community then has... Look, I still have to respect the choice of the community.
Yeah.
When Brexit happened, I didn't want Brexit to happen. But Brexit happened. I have to respect it. I think Brexit was the biggest mistake ever. But what can I do? People have chosen. So if people of Tamil still choose Rushanara Ali as their MP and say no to me, that's their choice. I have to respect it. I can't do anything about it. But I'm hopeful and I'm hoping that this time around, they will see that Rushanara Ali has failed them miserably, and certainly she has failed when we needed her most, and that was the period of Gaza right now.
Would that make us genocide supporters as well?
Unfortunately, if we support a genocide supporting MP, if we support and vote for a genocide supporting political party, that makes you and I a complicit to genocide, unfortunately, and that is the truth, whether you like it or not.
Could it be quite simplistic the way you're putting it?
No, it can't be. You either vote for or against genocide. Which one would you like? There is no in between. A genocide is taking place right in front of your eyes. You can't just say it's not happening.
So, if you do you think if our current MP spoke up, obviously it doesn't seem like it's going to make any difference.
Oh no, she should have spoken up.
She should have.
She should have criticized her party leader for saying that Israel has the right to switch off water, electricity, and food. That's war crime. And this is a human rights lawyer supporting war crime. He may have apologized and retracted his words, but he has shown scant interest in the rights of Palestinians, ignored their rights and plights, and many MPs have done that. Abysmal, shameful activities by these parliamentarians. I expect better from Rushanara Ali. She comes from a background of poverty. She used to live in a hotel as a homeless person with her family when she was young. And I saw her then in that hotel because my cousins were living in the same hotel. She came from a deprived background. She went through the difficult life and made it, which is wonderful. She has made it. Don't forget your roots. Don't forget what's made you who you are. Your community made you who you are. And your community supports Gaza, and you turned a blind eye to their passion. You did not stand up for them. She should have said, Keir Starmer, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to support you. My community wants me to stand for Gaza, and I'm going to stand for Gaza. And she didn't. She didn't.
And do you think that's her downfall?
Of course. That's definitely a downfall. And I would beg my community. I'll beg my community, please, please don't support genocide.
If, say, Keir Starmer replaces our current MP with another person, do you think there will be a difference in people's sentiment?
I don't think so, because people are fed up with the Labour Party's years and years of taking our people for granted.
Why do we support Labour Party? Why is the attachment?
I think look, Labour Party, when it was originally founded, it was founded on the principles of social justice, on the principles of the rights of working class people for their benefit. There was Conservative Party before, and Conservative Party was looking after the rich. So the working people's party, called the Labour Party, is no longer working people's party. It's become elitist. It's being held hostage by a very small number of people within the party. It's not a pluralist, a broad church as it used to be. It is now culling people who are opposing the current MPs, current prime minister, current leader of the party. It's not the same. People supported Labour Party because they couldn't support Conservative Party under no circumstances. It's almost impossible for me to support Conservative Party with its elitist policies. And the Lib Dems have proven to be a failure again and again. So people have naturally found Labour Party as their home. But disgraceful it is, Labour Party has moved on from its principles, and now it is a disaster.
So George Galloway, he's forming his own party. I mean, he has formed his own party, and it's what Labour supposed to be is. I mean,
was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, George Galloway or anybody else can form any party they want. Forming a party is not that difficult in this country. George Galloway has made a very big name for him by showing that he can actually rock a boat. He can rock the boat anywhere, and he will win. He won Tower Hamlets. He won Bethnal Green and Bow from Una King for similar type of issues on Iraq. He won Rochdale on Gaza. So he is a fantastic force for bringing about change or ushering in change. Can he unite all those people who have similar desires? Good luck to him. I hope he does. If we can see a third and the fourth and the fifth party emerging from the ashes of the befallen brothers and sisters and their homes and their properties in Gaza, that's a success. But I'm saying our parliament will always remain a broad church, if you want to use that terminology. It would be inclusive. It should be inclusive of people who believe in conservative values, who believe in Labour Party values, left and right. It should be inclusive of Lib Dems. It should be inclusive of Greens. It should be inclusive of any other organizations that wants to stand in the democratic process, even individuals and independent. So I wish everyone good luck, and hopefully they will succeed.
Does an MP have a job description?
Yes.
What is it?
He's a champion for local people.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's a very nice, simple job
But it's
description.
hard work. You think becoming a parliamentarian is easy? I haven't slept properly for the last 10 days. I haven't seen my family properly for the last 10 days. My kids are taking GCSE and A-level exams right now. I should be with them every day, but I've sat down with them and they said, Dad, this is the most important thing you can do for our success and for your success and the success of this whole world, especially Gaza. And go ahead, do your election. Do you think that's easy? Not eating, not resting, not sitting down. Do you think it's easy not even having a place to have a full 7 hours of sleep at night? It's not easy. You think it's easy to knock on doors, get abused? Becoming an MP is not an easy thing to do. It's not a walk in the park. And once you become an MP, your job doesn't stop there. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's a 24-hour job. You have to be available for your constituent anytime they want you. So therefore, it's not an easy job. It doesn't pay that well, by the way.
How much?
You earn more.
How much does it pay?
I think something about 80,000 or something like that. I don't know. I didn't even check. I think you earn more than an MP would. And my point is very simple. Most people who become MPs don't necessarily become MPs because they think there is a big salary to it. They become MPs because they want to provide service. And those who become MPs with greed in their mind, they use and abuse parliamentary privileges to make more money. I'm not getting into this for any of that. It's too late in my life. I'm now 52. Another 5 years, I'll be nearly 60. And then what? Retirement age. The truth is, here is a chance for me to say to the world and to the community that we united, we sacrificed. And for the people of Gaza and for the people of the world, and to preserve democracy, to preserve freedom, to preserve rule of law, we came together and we unseated an MP that did not vote for ceasefire, that supported genocide. And we will make history. And I'm inviting our communities to make history.
You have very little time. How are you going to do all of this? How are you going to communicate to the potential voters?
Well, as soon as I can get out of here, I'll continue with my campaigning. That's the only thing.
What? I mean, isn't social media campaigning nowadays?
Yeah,
or
one
do you
of-
still have to go for the traditional door-to-door?
You have to knock door to doors, drop leaflets. You have to still meet people. Social media is not the only way. Social media is one way, but it's not the only way. Remember, voters in Bethnal Green and Stepney, older generation are still the larger constituent voters. Younger ones are not yet registered to vote. So therefore, social media may be reaching the younger ones, but they're your voters.
They're not the voters? No.
Majority of them are olders. Do the demographics. Majority of them are above the age of 40.
Okay.
Below the age of 40, very
But
few.
they're on Facebook, surely.
Some of them are, some of them are not.
Because, look, door-to-door knocking, what has it done for us? What has it done for our people?
Has done a lot. You get to know your people. Social media is impersonal.
But have we benefited as,
Yes,
as constituents from
really.
our...
Well, it depends on your MP, really. Relationship matters. If your MP is unapproachable, doesn't matter how many times they knock on your door, it doesn't work. And if MP is approachable, you'll be able to meet them.
I mean, many people say, look, Rushanara Ali, she's not available to answer calls, answer emails. I mean, for me, it's different because every time I did email, she did respond. Every time I wanted to meet her, she did meet. So,
Which is good which is good for you, which is wonderful. I'm hopeful, and I was hopeful, and I was praying that this would be the case for everybody, but it's not the case for everybody. Maybe she was selective in who she responded to. Maybe she had a vetting process, whatever it is. An MP, people should also understand that MP also has a life. So keeping all of that in mind, an MP must be available. An MP must be approachable. An MP must be hardworking. An MP must reflect the feelings and the sentiments of the constituents. And unfortunately, Rushanara has failed in all of those. And I'm saying, I will do my best to provide a better and more inclusive, available, hardworking MP with a good voice in the parliament to stand up for the right thing.
what would you have to sacrifice if you become an MP? Sacrifice from your current lifestyle?
A lot. I'm a free spirit right now. I travel around the world. I travel up and down the country. I do lectures, talks, training. I appear on television, radio. I speak my mind. I will have to continue doing all of those, but have to reduce a lot of my outer commitments because I'll be confined to my constituent work. I'll have to serve the people of Tower Hamlets instead of serving the entire country that I've been doing. But it's okay. A disciplined framework is good for me. And it will hopefully enable my community to feel empowered. I want to break the glass ceiling and say to people, actually, you can realize your dream. Doesn't matter what dream you have. So yes, it's good time for me and I will do my best.
Are you telling me you're still going to be speaking freely as you are now?
Yes, of course. I will never stop speaking freely as I have always spoken freely. If I stop speaking freely, I won't be who I am. My brand is a person who speaks freely. And that's not going to change. I can guarantee you that, inshallah.
Wow. Now, what would be your last message before we finish? What would be your message to the constituents?
Change in any society takes time. I started this journey with this constituency in 2010, offering them an alternative. I stood, and the community said, no, we would like the Labour Party candidate. I wished them well and I moved on. I tried again, and the community had a different idea. They wanted Jeremy Corbyn, so they went for Jeremy Corbyn at that time. Jeremy Corbyn was the leader of the Labour Party, and people were voting for Jeremy Corbyn instead of Rushanara, and I can prove that to you because I've spoken to people who were voting. We're voting for Corbyn Bai, they were telling me as they were walking. I said, but Rushanara is your candidate. Doesn't matter. Corbyn Bai is our target. Now this time, I'm standing and I'm saying to people, that's history, that's past. Let's start afresh. Gaza is happening right in front of us right now. 7 months on, 40,000 people after, 100,000 people injured, 90% of Gaza flattened. We have a moral responsibility. We must stand together, unite together, and teach the entire world a lesson. Send the world this decisive lesson. We, the people of Bethnal Green and Stepney, will not cower to genocide-supporting political parties or MPs. We will stand free and we will struggle for the freedom of the Palestinians until Palestine is free. So vote for me in the next election, please.
Inshallah. Before we finish, I want to ask you 4 quick fire questions. What is your favorite politician in history?
Oh, who's my favorite politician? Malcolm X. He
Nice.
was a community leader, an organizer, a politician. I'm talking about the contemporary history in which I have lived. There are other historians and other politicians of the past. From the companions would be Umar. I think he was a master politician, strategist, amazing. And of course, our role model, Prophet Muhammad, would be ultimately the top. Like Michael Hart said, the most influential man to have ever walked this earth was Prophet Muhammad. Here is a non-Muslim who had given that acknowledgement. So that's my influence, yes.
What's one word that describes you as a political leader?
One word. Freedom-loving.
That's true, 2 words.
Libertarian.
Okay. What is your favorite area in East London?
What's my favorite area in East London? Shadwell, where I grew up.
Shadwell massive. And favorite Muslim scholar?
Oh, that's not fair. Because I've got so many scholars who give me so many different things. So one scholar I won't be able to name you.
Come on, I'm sure you have one.
No, I can't name you because I've got so many favorite scholars. Remember, this is what we need to change. You can't have cultish following of a human. And if you say one scholar is my favorite, you exclude others. All of them are favorite as long as it's good. I take the good from all of them and I leave anything that I think is not right. I don't need to choose one favorite scholar.
MashaAllah.
I don't follow a cult.
Sheikh Ajmal Masroor, 4MP, Bethnal Green and Bow. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bethnal Green and Stepney.
Oh, sorry, Bethnal Green and Stepney. It's Stratford and Bow, right?
Correct.
And Bethnal Green and Stepney. My bad. Thank you so much for making the time for us.
You're welcome.
And I hope to, inshallah, support in where we can.
Thank you very much.
Jazakallah.
Barakallah fiik.
And that's it for today on Side by Side with myself as your host, Kazi Shafiqur Rahman, and our guest, Imam Ajmal Masroor. If you have been enjoying our contents on Side by Side, please do consider subscribing to our channel on the platform you are tuned into. And don't forget to share it with your family and friends. And comment below with any guest recommendations, questions, and suggestions. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.